Imagine waking up tomorrow to discover the world has fundamentally changed overnight. While you slept, the global balance of power shifted in ways that will echo for decades. What's unfolding right now isn't just another geopolitical story happening far away. It's a seismic shift that will directly impact your cost of living, your savings, and the price you pay for everything from gas to groceries. 303,000 million barrels. That's the number keeping strategists awake at night across Western capitals. The world's largest proven oil reserves have just become the center of a high-stakes energy chess match. And what's happening will fundamentally alter the economics of global energy markets. Within the past few weeks, reports have emerged from multiple sources indicating a dramatic shift in control over major oil production facilities. The Western response has been notable primarily for its absence. The implications are simple yet profound. Control over critical energy resources has changed hands, and the dominant energy powers found themselves unable to respond effectively. But here's what truly matters for you, your family, and every dollar you earn through your hard work. Mainstream coverage will tell you this is just another distant geopolitical dispute that doesn't affect your daily life. That assessment misses the fundamental reality. This isn't abstract. This isn't distant. This is coming directly to your wallet, starting now. The price you'll pay at the pump next week. The inflation that will erode your purchasing power in coming months. Everything connects to this historic moment unfolding before us, and everything revolves around numbers that industry analysts have been tracking closely. Recent reports from energy sector observers reveal the scale of what's transpired. A $15 billion investment in oil infrastructure that has fundamentally altered the global energy landscape. $15 billion, more than double what had been offered by Western interests over the previous 5 years combined. This wasn't negotiations or threats. This was capital deployment that purchased what some naively believed belonged to them by historical precedent. Listen carefully, because what follows will determine whether you truly understand what's at stake. Over the next several minutes, we're going to examine the fundamental shifts in the global energy market and what they mean for your everyday expenses over the coming decades. Welcome. Today, you're going to discover the forces reshaping global energy economics. This analysis differs from typical geopolitical content. We're not staying on the surface with abstract theories or empty rhetoric. We're talking about your real money, your retirement savings built over decades, the concrete prices you'll pay at every store, and how strategic energy maneuvers will directly impact your family's cost of living for years to come in irreversible ways. Thousands of viewers have commented on previous videos with the same sentiment. The established powers are too strong. They'll never lose control of global oil markets. It's impossible. That perspective is understandable because for decades it was absolute truth. But evidence now demonstrates why that world no longer exists. And by the end of this complete analysis backed by verifiable data, you'll understand exactly why the world as we knew it has changed forever, with no possibility of return. Let's begin from the absolute foundation so everyone watching understands the colossal magnitude of what's at stake. One nation possesses the world's largest proven oil reserves, larger than the Middle Eastern giants, larger than any other country on Earth. We're talking about 303 billion barrels of crude oil beneath the ground. For entire decades, Western powers operated under the unshakable assumption that this oil would eventually be under their sphere of influence. Economic sanctions, commercial blockades, diplomatic recognition of opposition figures, every move was a calculated piece of a master plan, meticulously designed to force regime change and subsequently gain control of these vital strategic reserves. But there's something crucial that mainstream coverage conveniently omitted during all these years. While Washington played political chess with declarations and economic sanctions, Moscow played economic chess with real, tangible capital. And in the real world where we live, economic chess always, absolutely always, wins in the end. History has demonstrated this repeatedly without exception. Let me give you a perfect analogy anyone can understand instantly. Imagine you have a powerful neighbor who for years has completely controlled the main water valve to your house. Every time you did something they disliked, They simply closed the valve and left you without water until you submitted to their demands. That's exactly how sanctions functioned for all these years. Well, what just happened is this. Another power quietly arrived and installed a completely independent second valve on your property. And that new valve has no shutoff that Washington can ever close. Control was lost forever. Reports from industry observers reveal explosive details. A major energy company now has confirmed majority participation in 5 of the most productive fields in a critical oil region. This includes specifically one field that alone produces 400,000 barrels daily. 400,000 barrels that until recently depended completely on Western technology and financing for viable extraction. Now they depend exclusively on different sources. Washington was left completely out of the game. But wait, because the revelations become even more impactful. The arrangement doesn't only include crude oil extraction in its basic form. It includes complete refining, unrestricted international transport, direct global commercialization. Construction is underway right now on a direct pipeline that will connect oil fields to ports, allowing the export of millions of barrels without ever passing through any port that could be blockaded by naval forces. It's a complete bypass of established power structures. Industry sources have confirmed even more alarming data. There are 17 large-capacity tankers currently sailing toward these territorial waters. 17 massive petroleum vessels that will load crude that was expected to be controlled by Western companies. Each of those ships represents millions of dollars in petroleum escaping completely from established control networks. And here we arrive at what's truly critical for your personal economy, your savings, the financial future of your family. Every barrel of oil that flows through alternative control channels is one barrel that doesn't enter the international market denominated in dollars. We're witnessing active, accelerated de-dollarization of the global energy market. This is a process occurring in real time as you listen to these words. When major oil exporters begin selling massively in alternative currencies, whether rubles, yuan, or any other currency alternative to the dollar, the greenback automatically loses global demand. And when the dollar loses international demand, your purchasing power plummets vertically without you being able to do absolutely anything to prevent it. Listen with your full attention because this is absolutely crucial to understanding everything that follows. The petrodollar system has been the fundamental, unshakable foundation of the Western economic system since the 1970s, when an historic agreement was reached with Middle Eastern producers. The mechanism was ingenious in its simplicity. Every country in the world wanting to buy oil on the international market first needed to acquire dollars. That created massive artificial demand for the dollar. That kept the greenback artificially strong compared to other currencies. That kept your gasoline relatively cheap compared to the rest of the world. That kept inflation under control within certain borders. That entire system is about to collapse in dramatic and irreversible fashion. Economic analysts have warned for years that the petrodollar system has a built-in expiration date in its design. Well, that expiration date just accelerated dramatically with these strategic energy moves. Sources within banking circles have confirmed they're already processing the first significant petroleum transactions in yuan, not dollars, but Chinese yuan. This is a historic change of monumental proportions that traditional corporate media deliberately doesn't want you to understand because it directly affects the interests of their financial sponsors. The implications are absolutely enormous for the global economic future of coming decades. If the nation with the planet's largest proven oil reserves completely abandons the dollar for its energy transactions, other important producing countries will inevitably follow the example. Major Middle Eastern producers are already openly flirting with the possibility of selling oil in alternative currencies. Others have done so for years as a direct response to Western sanctions. We're talking about a completely unstoppable domino effect that could destroy economic hegemony in less than a decade if it continues advancing at this exponential rate. But there's something absolutely critical you haven't been told about how exactly we arrived at this situation of strategic weakness. During a previous administration, the hardest and most devastating sanctions in modern history were imposed. The strategy was clear and apparently logical. economically strangle the targeted government until forcing its inevitable collapse. Afterward would come a friendly, pro-Western government that would voluntarily hand over oil control to Western companies. The perfect plan on paper. But it failed spectacularly. What wasn't anticipated was the response. Instead of collapsing as all conventional analysts predicted, the targeted nation strategically turned toward alternative powers. Those countries arrived with massive real investment, modern petroleum technology, advanced refining capacity, and most importantly, they arrived without humiliating political conditions or regime change demands. They simply wanted mutually beneficial business. The offer was accepted gladly because there was absolutely no survival alternative. Now Western powers find themselves in a truly impossible position. If they lift sanctions unilaterally, they publicly admit to the entire world that their maximum pressure policy failed completely. That would be politically devastating for any administration. But if they maintain sanctions indefinitely, the target simply continues deepening its strategic alliance with alternative powers until Western control over regional oil markets disappears completely. It's a dilemma with no apparent solution, a strategic dead end. And here's what's truly frightening that economic analysts have identified. The next 12 months will be absolutely decisive in determining the future of the global economy as we know it. If the geopolitical situation continues escalating as it has been, projections indicate that international oil prices could increase between 15 and 25%. That's not alarmist speculation or sensationalist exaggeration. It's basic economic mathematics based on verifiable historical data. And that increase will translate directly, immediately, and inevitably into significantly more expensive gasoline every time you fill your vehicle's tank. It will translate into more costly merchandise transport for absolutely all products you consume daily. It will translate into more expensive food on every supermarket visit. It will translate into generalized, sustained inflation that will silently erode your life savings day after day without you being able to do anything to avoid it. And let me present the most concerning and statistically probable scenario that specialized sources have shared. If major Asian economies decide to strategically accelerate massively their purchases from this alternative oil source as a direct tactical response to ongoing trade conflicts, we could witness an energy shock similar in magnitude to the devastating one of 1973. For those who don't remember that historic crisis or didn't live through it personally, that oil shock literally quadrupled the international price of crude in a matter of chaotic months. It caused an absolutely devastating global economic recession that lasted several years and destroyed the accumulated savings of millions of working families throughout the Western world. Economic observers have been absolutely clear, direct, and consistent in repeated warnings over years. Major powers are playing with fire in energy geopolitics, and when you play recklessly with fire, eventually you get burned. You can't blame the flame for your own negligence and arrogance. Well, the flame is already burning with growing, uncontrollable force, and those who will inevitably suffer the most serious burns are ordinary citizens and workers who fill the tank every week, who buy food for our families, who desperately try to maintain a decent standard of living, while absolutely everything becomes more expensive without stopping. Let me present the 4 possible scenarios that analysts have meticulously modeled for the coming critical months. The first scenario is direct negotiation leading to some pragmatic, mutually beneficial agreement. This would mean publicly abandoning entire years of aggressive rhetoric and maximum pressure policy. It would mean implicitly recognizing that sanctions failed utterly. Politically, it would be devastating for any administration's image of strength. Critics would immediately accuse leaders of unforgivable weakness. But economically, it could stabilize global oil prices and avoid a catastrophic major financial crisis. The second possible scenario is deciding to intensify even more aggressively economic sanctions, including severe secondary sanctions against any country that dares to trade with the target. This could theoretically work if alternative powers decided to retreat before crushing pressure. But the brutal reality is they won't retreat under any conceivable circumstance. They've already invested too much political, economic, and strategic capital. A retreat now would be humiliating. This path would only dramatically worsen fragmentation of the global financial system and accelerate exactly the de-dollarization process that Western powers desperately try to avoid. The third scenario, and without doubt the most dangerous and frightening of all, is that the situation escalates militarily towards some type of direct or indirect conflict between nuclear powers. This would instantly and catastrophically shoot oil prices to historic levels never seen in all modern history. It could trigger an absolutely unprecedented global economic crisis. The consequences would be literally incalculable. The fourth scenario is that nothing particularly dramatic happens in the immediate short term, but that gradual, constant, relentless erosion of the petrodollar system continues without pause, month after month, year after year. This is paradoxically the most statistically likely of the four scenarios, and it's also the most insidious and dangerous long-term because economic damage accumulates slowly, almost imperceptibly day by day, until one day you wake up and discover horrified that the collapse process is already completely irreversible, that the world changed while you slept, and there's no possible way back. All this concretely means one thing for you. Your retirement savings accumulated working for entire decades are at tangible, verifiable risk in the next 12 to 24 months. This isn't cheap alarmism designed to generate easy clicks. It's cold, hard, ruthless economic mathematics. When the dollar loses value in international markets, your savings denominated in dollars automatically lose proportional value. It's an economic law as inevitable as gravity. When inflation increases sustainably, your purchasing power diminishes in directly proportional manner. Global geopolitics never forgives miscalculations or strategic ignorance. And the master plan to control oil resources effectively is definitely not an empty threat or propaganda. It's being actively executed right now at this precise moment as you listen to these words. And here we arrive at the moment of absolute truth. You have two fundamental options facing this undeniable reality. I want to know your honest, sincere, informed opinion, an opinion you'll never find in traditional corporate media because they simply don't tell you this uncomfortable truth that affects their interests. After hearing this complete analysis backed by verifiable data, what do you really think? Leave me in the comments the letter A if you consider that alternative power alliances will definitively and forever break hegemonic control over the global oil market, or write the letter B if you firmly believe that established powers will somehow find a way to recover their lost influence and completely reverse this situation before it's too late. And tell me something else I'm really interested in knowing. What was the exact most impactful moment for you personally? The precise instant that made you think, this is absolutely crucial. I have to share this immediately with my family and friends. Was it when we revealed the $15 billion of direct investment? Or when we explained in detail how this will directly affect the price of your weekly gasoline and your family's basic expenses? Write the exact minute in your comment along with your letter A or B. If you truly valued this deep, verifiable analysis that you definitely won't find on any other channel, demonstrate it with a like right now so this vital truth can reach more people who absolutely deserve to know what's really happening in the world. If you made it to this final moment with me, you know perfectly well that this type of honest, direct, data-backed content you won't find anywhere else. Subscribe immediately and activate the notification bell so you never again miss the truth about global economic shifts. We are the truly independent voice that established powers would like to silence permanently. See you in the next explosive analysis.